Our next and final speaker for the day is Bruce Mackenzie, who is the founder of the Mars Foundation and is dedicated to education and research on the settlement of Mars. His special interest is in the use of in situ materials, such as the production of plastic and masonry from the Martian air and dirt, to build habitats and 3D printing for Mars settlements. Bruce has been active in the National Space Society, AIAA, Mars Society, Space Studies Institute, and SEDS. Other work includes entrepreneurial ventures, software engineering, aerospace engineering, CAD development, GPS receivers, gun-launched satellites. But the most fun, as he states, were Mars settlement designs, space elevators, and the use of rotating space tethers to establish industry on Luna and export lunar materials. Please welcome Bruce Mackenzie.
Thank you. Can you hear me in the back?
Yes. No.
Good. You're in the, okay. So let me put in a little plug. The Mars Foundation can use help with trying to figure out how to live and build on Mars, extracting materials, construction, architecture, publicity. And also for you students in the audience, I'd encourage you to look up SEDS, the Students for the Exploration and Development of Space, and form a chapter or affiliate or just get in touch with them. Okay, let's see. I'm also for the following thing called Leapfrog, I could use people helping, collaborate, especially working out the energy, the mass, and the velocities involved. This is really just a conceptual thing. Okay, to get started, Interstellar isn't really thinking big enough. What do you do after you get to, a few stars? And I propose something where multiple spacecrafts carry us across the galaxy to multiple stars. Let's see if this works. Yes. Okay, so I'm assuming this is sometime in the future. Everybody, I hope, knows about orbital settlements, Jerry O'Neill's space colonization ideas. Okay, if you don't, look up ssi.org.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't want to. No, it's too loud now. Okay, but you can hear.
It's good.
Okay, sorry. So look up ssi.org if you don't know about orbital settlements. But I'm assuming that at some time in the future, we will be able to go out to asteroids and convert them into building materials and make orbital settlements. They can be spinning for artificial gravity. There's one up in the upper right under construction and what it might look like inside with houses. So I'm assuming we can already do that, and assuming that we can already launch at least some things to an interstellar trajectory, and that we have energy storage to keep these things going. Okay, now why not just have a orbital settlement going to another star, as shown in the lower right? Down in the very lower right corner, you see that red and white glow? Picture that as a laser pushing you out of the solar system. In reality, you probably have lots of small spacecraft and use the same laser over and over again and then rendezvous en route. This proposal, you don't need to slow down at another star system. That's a major difference. Okay, so assume it's a human generation ship for now. I'll talk about that later, but assume there are people on board and you're living there generation after generation, a generation ship. Down in the lower right, there's this dark circle. That is my crude graphics of the interstellar ship. It drops off other small spacecraft. The interstellar ship has a laser, it pushes them backwards, decelerates them. And those small ships then, so as you pass a star system that has asteroids or planets, you push these little seed ships backwards and they fall into that star system. And there are people or some kind of automated equipment, and as an exercise for the reader, your job is to start a civilization in that star system. Okay? That's possibly harder than simple interstellar flight. Okay, so there's the picture. you're on board that star sail, you're being dropped off at a star system. Your job is to, start an industry. Any clarification needed? I'll take questions at the end, but anybody have a question for clarification? Okay, now what I didn't show you was covered up by that lower left picture. So this starship has done this multiple times, dropped off and established civilizations several places along, and now more starships follow. So, does the laser work? Okay, so here's the first starship dropping off to settle that planet, but it previously, maybe, hundreds of years ago, dropped off and started a settlement here. Now there are people there who have built a big laser and they're launching supply ships. And here's the first interstellar ship, the second one, the third one, and the fourth one. They're forming a convoy. So these third and fourth ships are receiving supplies from the settlement that was created. So supplies of some kind of stored energy and matter. By the way, it's nice to have an audience that I can comfortably talk about interstellar flight. It's, this is kind of beyond it. So, yep. Okay, and also you can pass close to a star and do a gravity turn to aim at another star system. Lots of problems, obviously, but it's pretty much the same technology as for interstellar flight. So if we can get to another star, then we can go to multiple stars. So this is what I call the convoy or the leapfrog. Any clarification needed on this slide? Okay, let's see what's next. All right, so initially assume it's a bunch of people living on board. They're living for generations, something like an O'Neill settlement. So a giant torus in the upper left. There would be people on board, both the supply ships and these seed ships. So, whoops, wrong button. Okay, so here you are in your interstellar ship. You pass a settlement, and they launch dozens and dozens of these little craft out to join you. Velocities would be a tiny fraction of the speed of light. We're talking thousands of years. But once you get started, it just keeps going. Okay, so human ships. At some point, we may have artificial intelligence. We may decode human intelligence and download our intelligence into a machine. Obviously, then the ships can be made much, much smaller. Something the size of a bacteria could have the more computational power than our desktop computers. So we could be talking fairly small automated ships at some point. I still consider those to be our descendants because it would be our intelligence in them. I don't really want to get into a philosophical or religious discussion, but I'm hoping that someday we won't be compelled to carry human bodies to the far side of the galaxy. Also, if we do have artificially intelligent ships, or they'd be willing to take more risks, And it's also fairly likely that if there is a colony, a generation ship with people on board, they would be very interested in doing, the research toward this kind of automation. So you might actually improve the ship as you go along. The people who'd be most interested in this scheme would be the people who are on these ships or in the settlements that they've left behind. This slide is too much information, I'll skip it. Many different kinds of propulsion could be used, light sails, laser, microwave. This is a laser that is then collected and drives an ion thruster. Could be fusion power, possibly fission power. What I'm talking about is a concept that is somewhat independent of the propulsion mechanism. Concept of just getting out there, keep going, don't stop, spread settlements as you go. Robert Forward gave proposals where he's talking about over there in the far right, 1/10 of the speed of light. He's also, unfortunately, talking about 75 million gigawatts. I have no idea what a million gigawatts is, much less 75 million of them. But someday the technology is just going to keep going, and we really don't know. At what point these will be practical. At what point we can use automated systems to harvest a lot of energy and matter. Okay, the lead ship eventually runs out of material. So you're dropping off all these craft. All the craft you drop off need energy and mass. And the lead ship just gets lighter and lighter, uses up all its stores. So here's where the Leapfrog comes in. Starting in the lower left, you got 4 ships in a row. The first ship is this red square. The 3 ships behind it are picking up, replacement supplies of matter and energy. They keep going in a straight line, dropping off and establishing settlements as they go. Again, this is hundreds, thousands of years. The lead ship is getting light, takes a detour that's longer and falls in behind them. And now the original 3 ships are establishing settlements, and they can provide supplies. Those settlements provide supplies to what had been the lead ships. So you take turns being the lead ship, or the other ships leapfrog over the first ship. If you get enough supplies, you could build the interstellar ships larger, you could divide them, you could go off on different routes, you can go in a circle. Any clarification on this leapfrog concept needed? Either everybody understands it or you're not curious. Yes.
The very first ship.
Yes.
Is that the one now in the bottom right corner?
Yes. So the first ship is the red square. It's depleted a lot of its supplies. Doesn't have anything more to drop off. It takes a long route, doing gravity turns around a bunch of stars. Goes down to the lower right corner, comes back up. That's a longer route, takes longer in time. The other 3 ships pass it, they leapfrog it.
And then it gets back in line with the rest of
It gets back in line at the back of the line.
Okay.
And then as it passes newly established settlements, they provide supplies to it and rebuild it. Okay. Again, we're talking really long time frames. Up in the back?
Yeah, this trajectory for the first ship that makes it basically could take a longer route.
Yes.
Is that established at the very beginning when it gets its,
okay.
solar system escape velocity, or is it propulsively obtained later?
No, not propulsively. You have to take a close pass past some stars to turn your trajectory. And
this is all planned thousands of years in advance.
Well, you really can't plan it in advance, because as you get closer, hopefully your sensors will be better and better, and you're going to want to say, is it safe to go near this star? Is it full of debris? Were there planets that swept out the debris? How close can I safely go to that star? Would it be a good place to establish life? And one of the problems is, how do you make these decisions? If you're 10 light years or 100 light years in front of the ship behind you, you got to make decisions faster than you can communicate. So, there was another question somewhere up front?
You kind of answered it, I think, but I was wondering what distances you were picturing between the ships here.
Yeah, what distance between the ships? I would like to find a couple people who want to sit down and come up with a couple scenarios. But the distance between ships, really the time between ships, has to be enough to drop down small pieces of equipment, that are somehow intelligent, and start manufacturing, bootstrapping more and more manufacturing, constructing lasers or some other power source, collecting energy, and then helping the ships that follow. Maybe 100 years, could be 500, could be, with automated equipment, could be 50 years. In the back.
Two short things. First, the red depleted ship would still have enough stuff to go on maintaining itself, but not establish new colonies, correct?
Yes, the lead ship, assuming there are people on board, the lead ship would still have enough to maintain their life support. All these ships have to repair themselves because you're out there for thousands and thousands of years. So it's not an easy job. But now, if it's an automated ship, you might just dive it into a star and say, it did a job, its job.
Secondly, the ships on that upper sort of branches, B, C, and D, they become the new colonies now.
Right, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
And I showed 4 ships, the minimum is 2, there'd be benefit for more. Let me keep going. Sorry. Okay, technical challenge, yes, there's a lot of them. There's every technical challenge you have for interstellar flight except for slowing down. Propulsion, energy, life support, the energy for life support, repairing your spacecraft, building, you may want to enlarge the colony ships, the convoy ships, and split them. Sensing what's ahead of you. You might want to do a lot of research and development en route. So, okay, societal issues. Possibly harder. How do you establish all these societies that will be stable? What's the minimum number of people? Assuming there are people on board, how are they governed? What happens with disputes? I threw in religion. You might want to even instill in the people you send off a set of morals, almost a quasi-religion that says, your mission in the universe is to help the people behind you. Your mission is to boldly go and establish new civilizations who will then help other people go and establish new civilizations. I'd hate to have hard feelings between 2 of the ships, holding a grudge. And I mentioned how do you plan ahead when you have many years of radio delay communication. Okay, if that wasn't big enough for you, okay, let's say you're here in the Milky Way and you establish a long string of settlements in a straight line that just happens to be pointing at another galaxy. So you get thousands of settlements all lined up in a straight line. They all have lasers. And now you send some little tiny seed ships, and they go down this line and they get a boost from thousands and thousands and thousands of lasers. And they're headed off to Andromeda. So, this can be extended to intergalactic travel. Step 3 is you coast using minimal power, but step 3B is while you're en route to the other galaxy, figure out how to stop, because you don't have a bunch of lasers that are waiting for you. So anyway, so just for you people who don't want to read, one proposal is go around so you have a whole bunch of ships going out to another galaxy. You do these gravity assist maneuvers to go around in a circle, and then you drop off the seed ships, and all the convoy ships decelerate the seed ships as they pass. That's not a very good scheme, but you won't have a lot of help when you get there. So let's see what's next. Okay, I'm coming into the summary slide. So basically I'm saying this civilization would basically not be limited to the resources of the Earth, not limited to the resources of our solar system, or not even 3 or 4 stars. By the way, I will gladly send out this PowerPoint to people who are taking pictures. So most interstellar proposals, you only go to 1 star system. You have a lot of trouble stopping when you get there. You may try to live there, but there's not necessarily incentive to keep doing that, or for the people at Alpha Centauri to go on to the next star system. So this is basically establishing a culture of continuous expansion, not unlike some nomadic tribes. And as I said, I would welcome help from people. So here's the the slide I'll leave up. So the summary is you get approximately 4 ships following a line. You establish civilizations as you go. The lead ship gets leapfrogged by the other, falls back in line. Was that thinking big enough for this audience?
Yeah.